Trump, Putin, and the axis of global reorganization. What lies behind the agreements? Welcome to the Geopolitics Update channel. Monday, October 20, 2025. The geopolitical week was marked by quiet yet deeply strategic movements. According to military sources within intelligence circles, the world is undergoing a diplomatic and military redesign that escapes ordinary perception. At the center of this board, names like Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin emerge in decisive positions. While the conflict between Israel and Hamas drags on, the war in Ukraine intensifies, and military escalation in the Caribbean and Latin America paints a multifaceted scenario. Then, on October 13, 2025, something unusual happens. In Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, the diplomatic summit known as the 2025 Gaza Peace Summit takes place. Around 30 countries participate. The meeting is co-chaired by Donald Trump and Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Behind-the-scenes reports reveal that a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas was formalized, brokered through international mediation. The pact includes the release of 20 living hostages and over 1,900 detained Palestinians. In addition, an escalation in humanitarian aid was announced, along with a proposal to rebuild Gaza under Arab-led international coordination. But observers warn, this agreement may be a strategic truce, not the definitive end to a millennia-old conflict. The absence of Benjamin Netanyahu from the summit, a symbolic episode, suggests deep internal divisions within the Israeli government. In diplomatic circles, it's said that other leaders present are attempting to legitimize a multilateral effort amid rising tensions. Meanwhile, Putin's role in the Middle East appears to be receding. Sources claim that his planned Russia-Arab World Summit was cancelled due to lack of participation. A clear signal, according to analysts, that Russian influence in the region is waning amid the strategic advance of the United States. In contrast, Trump frames the ceasefire as part of a soft power strategy, a calculated move to reinforce his global diplomacy. Yet some suggest this American advance in the Middle East is just one gear in a much larger machine. The war in Ukraine remains a central axis in the confrontation between global powers. Reports indicate that Russian strikes targeted Ukrainian energy infrastructure, inside Russian territory. No deep zone appears safe. In response, Ukrainian officials report the use of drones and missiles in counter-offensive operations. And there are signs that Russia may recruit foreign fighters to offset losses in the conflict. On the diplomatic front, Trump and Putin have confirmed a meeting in Budapest in the coming weeks. Military sources suggest that Trump may use the summit to pressure Moscow regarding the use of Tomahawk missiles in support of Ukraine. But he also warned, Tomahawks are essential to U.S. defense, complicating any unrestricted supply. Analysts say this strategy has two faces. On one hand, it increases pressure on Moscow. On the other, it serves as a deterrent tool. The dynamic between Trump and Putin may determine whether the conflict escalates or opens a path toward tangible negotiation. And there's more. Trump links his Middle East diplomacy to potential advances in Ukraine, using the political momentum gained from the ceasefire to legitimize a firmer stance against Russia. But the war doesn't stop there. U.S. military intervention in Latin America and the Caribbean is gaining visibility. Military sources confirm that a new counter-narcotics task force has been created, under the coordination of Southern Command. The focus? To neutralize drug cartels and ensure regional security. But critics warn, there are risks of escalation and potential legal violations. This move coincides with a naval buildup near the Venezuelan coast. behind-the-scenes reports reveal that at least 7 warships have been deployed, including missile destroyers, cruisers, and even a nuclear submarine. Some of these vessels are armed with Tomahawk missiles. According to military sources, this suggests land strike capability. Should the conflict intensify, it marks a new chapter in U.S. Venezuela tensions. In mid-October, Trump confirmed he authorized covert CIA operations inside Venezuela. In parallel, attacks on suspicious vessels in the Caribbean, attributed to Venezuela and drug trafficking networks, have already left 27 dead. Maduro responded with the mobilization of civilian militias and military exercises near the capital. But then, Brazil enters the picture. Diplomatic sources indicate that Washington views Brazil as a key player in maintaining regional balance, and as a counterweight to foreign influence in trade and institutional negotiations. Domestically, a wave of dismissals in public institutions is fueling speculation about institutional repositioning. In anticipation of possible political shifts, this convergence of military and diplomatic operations reveals a clear American strategy to reassert its hemispheric presence. According to analysts, the objective is twofold: combat illicit threats, consolidate hegemony, and deter external actors competing for regional influence. But the economic terrain is shifting too. The IMF warns, growth in Latin America and the Caribbean may slow to 2.4% in 2025, pressured by high debt, persistent inflation, and fragile supply chains. The recommendation? Coordination between fiscal and monetary policy, along with structural reforms to sustain investment. And so, the focus begins to shift toward the global financial landscape. Military sources warn that economic pressures on emerging markets, such as high debt and sovereign risk, are making Latin America increasingly vulnerable to external shocks. In diplomatic circles, it's said that the upcoming Trump-Putin summit in Budapest may produce peace rhetoric, but remain limited to symbolic negotiations. Meanwhile, global fragmentation is accelerating. Marginalized nations are beginning to seek regional alliances with China, India, or emerging blocs. A quiet reorganization, but a profound one. Domestically, Brazil and Venezuela are facing political and institutional pressure. Sources report discrete but significant movements behind the scenes. And then, strategic weapons emerge as bargaining tools. The use of Tomahawk missiles as a diplomatic card could provoke severe reactions from Russia. According to military sources, this type of weaponry is not just tactical. It's symbolic. Amid rising tensions, the diplomatic focus in the Middle East, the war in Ukraine, hemispheric intervention, and financial disputes form a narrative of global strategic transition. Donald Trump, by leading peace agreements in Gaza and seeking prominence in the Ukrainian conflict, is attempting to reposition the United States as a global mediator. Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, faces diplomatic constraints, limited resources, and the risk of isolation. Confidential reports suggest his room for maneuver is narrowing. In the Caribbean and Latin America, the U.S. military strategy responds to the challenge of drug trafficking, and to Russian and Chinese influence. In this context, Brazil assumes a pivotal role, closely monitored by Washington, and pressured by internal and external rebalancing. The sequence of diplomatic decisions, in the Middle East and at the Trump-Putin summit, will determine whether this phase leads to containment or escalation. The world is moving toward a new geopolitical order, where the silence between actions may reveal more than the speeches themselves. What unfolds before attentive eyes is a silent, strategic, and global reorganization. sources within intelligence networks affirm that the board is in motion. The pieces are being placed with precision. And the next moves have already been calculated. Governments, institutions, and influence networks are being reassessed. What once appeared stable now shows signs of erosion. What once seemed random follows a deliberate operational logic. In strategic circles, it's said that a multinational alliance continues to coordinate actions behind the scenes. Every move is planned. Every silence intentional. While the surface reveals noise, behind the scenes a new architecture is taking shape. According to military and diplomatic sources, the transition is underway. The exposure is gradual. And the plan remains in motion. End of the report, everyone. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join the conversation in the comments. Your support helps us move closer to monetization, which improves our ability to keep this work going. Would you consider supporting us directly? You can make a donation using the link in the description or the QR code on screen. It helps keep this project alive and independent. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next report. This content is a narrative adaptation based on publicly available themes in global geopolitics. The version presented has been transformed with original style and perspective. It is based on public information, analyses, and opinions, and is intended solely to inform and entertain.